efficiently replicate it using the DataKeeper replication and come into service. So that's something to consider if you're going to implement this. Live migration is great, but it does require a very decent connection to have that seamless failover.
Dave,
question?
Yes.
Okay, now I have one server on A, and I can recreate it to B. Therefore, I have a DataKeeper volume. What is if I have on the second server another virtual machine? Do I need a second DataKeeper volume, or?
Yes. So the question was, if I have a server A with one virtual machine replicating to server B, and I have another virtual machine that's running on server B, replicating server A. And that's a very common scenario because generally you're deploying a cluster farm where you're going to have some machines running in different locations. And we have, if you, after the show, if you want to take a look, we have lots of video demonstrations showing how that works. The big thing to remember here is we do not support clustered shared volumes. So you will have to have an individual volume per VM. Cluster shared volumes is obviously a new technology. Microsoft themselves with Data Protection Manager is still yet to release. They're very close, but there's really, even the array-based replication vendors, no one with this type of functionality supports cluster shared volumes today. We're working very hard to come out with a solution, but until we do, you need individual volumes. One thing I've been thinking about and testing recently is one of the benefits of cluster shared volumes. And there's a kind of a misconception about cluster shared volumes that it's required for live migration. We just saw a live migration with no cluster shared volumes. It's recommended. It shortens that brownout period in between to milliseconds because we don't have to reverse the mirror. So there's that benefit. But the other major benefit is better storage utilization, because now if you have to have one volume per VM, well, how big should I make that volume? 20 gigs, 30 gigs, and so we have to move on, you know, and make a choice of there's a way to actually create volumes using VHD files on one big volume and make them expandable, so you get the same type of storage utilization without cluster shared volume. So there's lots of benefits to that. Okay, so let's look at the next level up is failover clusters. So live migration and failover clusters all are based upon the Windows Server clustering. And so if you're going to have live migration, by default you have failover clusters as well. And really the difference is failover clusters protects against the unplanned downtime, hardware failures and hypervisor failures. And again, traditional cluster requires shared storage. We eliminate shared storage, so there's cost savings, and eliminates the single point of failure a shared storage cluster represents, and lets you utilize your existing storage. So let's go ahead and take a look at how that works. We're going to basically, same systems, I'm going to pull the power cord on ML110A, and we're going to see ML110B come into service. And what happens is DataKeeper tries to reverse the mirror, but we'll see the VHD file never actually gets all the way over to the target, but it continues to try. And at this point, we're tracking the changes that occur on 110B in a static size bitmap file. So it's just a bitmap of all the blocks on the disk. As a block changes, we mark it as dirty. So you could be down for an hour, a week, a year, it doesn't matter. As soon as we recover ML110A, we're going to read that bitmap file automatically and just send the changes that occurred while it was down. So let's go ahead and look at that. Now, in an unexpected failure, we see we're running on ML110A, and I'm going to pull the power cord, hopefully on the right system. Okay. We should see the client fail. The next query should not work. So I pull the power cord. This type of failover takes a longer period of time because basically Microsoft Cluster has to detect that it's actually failed, so there's a timeout period for the heartbeats. And then once we actually fail, the server has to boot up from an unexpected failure. SQL needs to do what it needs to do to recover So we're going to leave this run in the background, and we're going to continue on with some other demonstrations, but just keep an eye on the client. When the actual recovery happens, you'll see the client automatically reconnect. In this setup, it takes about 2.5 to 3 minutes to go. So while we're here, we'll just talk a little bit more about the features of DataKeeper. We've seen the GUI. We also have a complete command line interface. So if you want to script things, you want to pause mirrors, and one good use case scenario, and this is really assist in the backup. You can pause the mirror, unlock the volume, and now you have full access to the VHD file. So you could do a robocopy of that to keep periodic backups of your VHD file. Really kind of a poor man's data protection manager. Of course, and you're just pausing the mirror. We're not integrated with VSS, so the data protection manager is going to give you the application consistent read-line points. Our points are going to be crash consistent. So there's a trade-off. But there's lots of things you can do to enhance, to control the mirroring with our cluster, with our command line interface. We also have everything, we have a full set of performance counters. So if you want to manage and monitor the rate of your replication and see the exact blocks that are being replicated, we could do that as well. And so that's all done through the performance counters. Everything that the cluster does is logged in the Windows event log. So if I were to look at the Windows event log here, what's happening now, the volume is trying to reconnect. So it's going to time out. It tries for a while before it times out and gives up and comes on. So it makes sure that it fails. So the failover just completed, so we should see this client connect in a moment here. But until it does, we look at the event viewer. You can see the Windows event log. What I might do is this is extended mirroring is DataKeeper. Really, it's really the original name of DataKeeper. Which, I can tell you early on, SteelEye has been around for 10 years, but the technology is much older than that. It was actually developed originally by AT&T Bell Labs. And SteelEye bought the technology and brought over the key employees and have been developing high availability clustering and replication for many years. So this is showing me a mirror state change. So if I wanted to maybe be notified every time a mirror state changes, I don't know if you're aware of this, in the new Windows 2008, you can simply add a task to this event and have an email be sent. So when this event is logged, I can send an email. So it's kind of a poor man's System Center Operation Manager. Again, with System Center Operation Manager, you can look at the log files to see, look for these events to be notified through that as well. So we see the client recovers, so SQL's back up and running. So that was a hard failure, and we recovered just fine. So let's